The Powers Project.
Dr. David, it's great to have you here today. I really appreciate you coming out and spending time with us. What I'd like to talk about, because this is your area of expertise, is gay relationships. What I've noticed over the years after coming out is that a lot of gay men have trouble maintaining and a relationship, and I'm not quite sure why. It seems to me like we never had any examples to follow, and we're in this world that's kind of different from heterosexuals in the sense that we don't abide by the same rules. What's your take on that?
Well, there's an awful lot of things to talk about here. So it's kind of like, where would you like to start? So, you first mentioned, not having really the models, which is true. But until recently, we also haven't had the institutions. So, not being able to get married, until 6 years now?
I think so. Somewhere,
6 years?
yeah.
And it seems like so normal, but it was only 6 years ago.
Right.
And so even having that, psychologically, it makes a difference when you go through all of the rigmarole and all of the work to get married. Then certainly it makes the bond feel more real. It makes you think twice before you walk out the door. When we didn't have those institutions, that would be one. It was just it's easy to leave because there's no legal entanglements either. Now we have legal entanglements.
Yes.
We wanted marriage, but now we also get divorce.
Exactly.
Before it was, we're going to fight over, well, back in my day, the CD collection.
Right.
We're going to fight over the CD collection and the dog, and then somebody goes. And that's kind of the end of it. Now it's a whole different story. And so I think, I think that for just that one element, we might see, like in the next generation coming up, more stability in relationships than maybe, you or I, our generation, that didn't have any of that. So, I mean, I think that's one thing that certainly makes a difference.
So let me ask you this, because I've seen this time and time again, where you have these guys who are in a relationship for 10, 15, 20 years, then they got married, and then they broke up. So what was it? What do you think was the catalyst that they were able to stay together all these years, and then as soon as they got married, they separated, divorced, or whatever?
Well, I guess it's hard to kind of put a blanket over that, not knowing maybe individual circumstances. But one thing that just comes to my mind, right away, is that, okay, well, now, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're absolutely free to do whatever you want.
So it's like shit got real,
right?
And so it's it's one thing when we're playing house, but it's another thing now when we have legal entanglements and things of that nature, and so making it feel more real or more permanent. Sometimes that freaks people out, and maybe in ways they didn't realize, or it's weird how little things, and I'm not getting married isn't necessarily a little thing, but it's weird how things can affect our perspective as we look into the future in ways that we don't expect.
Right.
So it's so that. And there could be a multitude of reasons for why that could happen. But I mean, I think, off just kind of, waving a surface wand over it, it's just the change in perception of, it makes it really real, and it's like a bigger sense of responsibility.
Right. I was wondering if things change, because it seemed like there was something in the dynamic of that relationship that changed. So I was wondering, I wonder if during all those years they had separate bank accounts, and they're like, okay, well, now we're married, we have to have a bank account together, and one of them's like, yeah, well, here's the problem, mine is much bigger than yours, so I don't know if I want to put those together. And I was wondering if that, if it was something to do monetarily, because we know with marriage that if you get divorced, that now, like you said, it's no longer just about the CD collection and the dog. There's a lot more there to to divide up between each other. So, and I don't know if that's if that's part of it or not, but I would imagine it might be.
It certainly could be. I mean, the things that break couples up, are, between two men, two women, a man and a woman, are kind of the same in the respect that it's arguments over sex or disagreements over sex in the relationship, money, and how to raise the kids. I mean, that's pretty much across the board
Right.
for all relationships. And, and I just occurred to me that in the situation you're presenting about people being together a long time and then, getting married and then breaking up, I've heard many times that happen for heterosexual couples as well.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. But
Yeah.
The thing is that you're right now that you mentioned it, because I do recall that happening a few times. It's just those instances are so few because heterosexuals could always get married. They just chose not to, and we're like all of a sudden
we don't notice them.
Right.
We don't notice those things when it's happening,
Right.
in our circles, and because every relationship is an example of success or failure for us, right?
Right. No, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but it kind of is, because we feel like we have so much to prove, because we've always been told our love isn't real, and and so we have to make it work, and if we don't, well then it's like we all failed as a community, which is completely ridiculous.
It is. Well, one of the things I said before we were able to get married, I said, maybe part of what some straight people, not all, because we had a lot of allies who were pushing for us to be able to have, the right to get married. But I said, maybe one of the problems is, especially with the religious right, is maybe they're afraid we'll do it better than they did. Maybe, that they have over 50% divorce rate, and maybe ours is going to be lower, and say, oh, it looks like we got this down better, didn't you? So, that's just me being a dick, but I just.
Well, I mean, Kurt, if I could figure out the motivation behind whatever the religious right does,
Right.
I'd be a millionaire.
Right. Exactly.
You'd be on my show.
Exactly. Looking for advice.
That's right, because I'd have like 5 million books that I'd already
Right.
written, and I mean, who knows? I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what drives them or motivates them to do the things they do, but it's kind of funny. I was just thinking today, because just there's a lot of backlash going on right now since the administration changed, and of course, who do they always target? The blacks and the gays, or the LGBT people, because right now they feel like the gays are untouchable, so they go after the trans folks.
Right, they do.
But that's who they always target, and I'm like, why don't you just try to change your behavior?
Right. And because that's what scares them. They don't want to change their behavior.
Yeah, it's
that's
just
what.
weird to
Yeah,
me.
and they don't want to grow. There's so many people who refuse to be introspective, even in the least little bit, and allow themselves to grow, to become better humans, to have more of an understanding, to have more experiences. They're stuck in their little world, and that's where they want to be. And anything that isn't part of that little world upsets them. And it's unfortunate, because I don't think with people like that you can have a civil discussion with, because they're not open to anything at all. So you're wasting your breath, and it's unfortunate, because I like to think that most people are intelligent enough to be able to exchange ideas and think about them. And that's what my show has, from the get-go, has always been about, is look at things from different perspectives. Take into consideration the person that you may not agree with, and do your best to understand where they're coming from. You may still not end up agreeing with them, but at least I can say, you know what, that's an intelligent person there. They came to this conclusion by putting some thought into this. And so while I may not agree with them, I can respect them. What I find is that so many people don't want to do that, because it's not about understanding, and it's not about having facts. It's not about logic or truth. It's about beliefs. And beliefs are very seldom predicated on truth,
Right.
I mean,
or pushing some sort of power agenda.
Right.
Right,
exactly. So, and it always comes down to fear. They're afraid they're going to lose their way of life by allowing people to have their life. And it's, to me, it's ludicrous, but it's how they think. One of the things I want to ask you about, though, is that, especially in today's world, it's not just gay couples or gay relationships, because I'm sure it's just as prevalent on the straight side, that with all these social media apps and the dating apps and stuff, like in our day, if we did have a partner back then, it would have been, it wasn't like you could hook up or you could cheat on your partner, because you didn't have a whole world of apps out there where you could just push a button and go, oh, I can hook up here, I can hook up here. It was much more difficult. Do you find that in this day and age with these apps, with these dating sites, that it's more of a problem with couples cheating on each other? And when I say cheating, I say when there's an agreement that people are going to be monogamous and one of them breaks that promise. Because I know that there are relationships out there where they're perfectly fine with extramarital affairs, as long as whatever their rules are, if you abide by those rules, they're okay with it.
Well, the apps do definitely make things easier, and it gives you an excuse for, it gives you a ready excuse for the behavior, not just, testosterone, which drives us to think about sex all the time. But just, if I'm having a bad day, it's a dopamine rush. There's really a chemical kind of that we can force a chemical rush in our brains by, and the hookup apps are really geared towards that. I mean, now I have to, disclaimer, I don't know, there's a word. I've never had a Grindr account.
Wow.
Because, my husband and I met in 94.
Oh, okay.
So there was no internet. We had to meet the old fashioned way. Which I like to joke at parties. It was at the baths, but
right.
And he's like, "Stop that." We met at a gay club, of course,
right?
And but I certainly know all about all of the psychology behind it, and you can literally, it's like a cocaine rush or a drunk or something like that, where you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you become like obsessed with finding, the 10 or, somebody
right.
who just really stands out to you that you were like, and then when you find maybe the 10, then you start looking for the next 10,
right.
Or whatever. And it almost can become like the dopamine rush in our brains can almost become like an addiction, or just, using a substance. The same thing can happen for people who love to gamble, and
right.
you kind of get into this state of flow where it's just like, it's so intense. So it can be the same thing on the apps, and then it's so easy because it's right here.
Right, exactly.
And so if I'm having a bad day, so it's not, or if, or it could be like, this is the way that, I unconsciously punish my partner if
right.
we're not doing like whatever, if I'm not getting what I want out of the relationship
right.
today. So there can be a lot of reasons for all of that to happen. And so again, I forgot where I was going.
That's okay. Well, I think one of the reasons is because I had a partner. And, one of the things I tell anyone that I'm going to date is like, look, if we're talking about, a possibility of a long-term relationship, this is the kind of guy I am. I want you to only need my attention. If you need the attention of other men, I'm not that guy for you. And I had a partner, and I explained that to him, and yet I found that's exactly what he needed to be validated, and it wasn't enough to be validated by me. If I told him, "Hey, you're good looking, you look great today," it didn't mean anything, because I must have only told him because I loved him, and that's so he didn't give it a lot of weight. So he needed to hear it from other people, and so he was constantly looking for validation from other people, and of course that relationship didn't work out, because that's not the only person I want validation from, I don't even need it, but I want it, is from my partner. So if my partner says, "Hey, I like it when your beard's dyed," and I have 10 other guys say, "I like it when it's gray," well, I'm going to dye it, because that's the only person that matters to me and what he thinks, and I care about what he thinks. I don't care about what the other 10 people think, and I don't care whether they find me more or less attractive, because they're not a thought in my head. that doesn't mean, one of the things, one of my partners, him and I used to joke around. We would walk around, and I'm into twinks, and he was into muscle guys. And every time he'd see a muscle guy, or I thought he saw a muscle guy, I'd hit him in the arm. And every time there was a twink around, he hit me in the arm. And so most times he'd hit me in the arm, and I go, "Where? I didn't see the twink, but because he's over there." Excuse me. Anyway, so that's healthy to acknowledge that you're going to know that just because you're in a relationship or married, that you didn't go blind. You're going to see other guys that you find attractive, but that doesn't mean you need to seek their attention. Now, is that too much to expect from someone, or is that normal?
It's not too much to expect, but it won't happen automatically in most cases. It goes kind of back to what you were talking about just a few minutes ago about being courageous to grow, and how a lot of people don't want to do that because we just kind of, live here.
Right.
Most of us have some sort of, and when I say most of us, I mean gay men, but I mean all the letters really in the LGBTQ community. I mean, all the letters, we pretty much all have some sort of trauma that we probably haven't processed from early in our lives. And for a lot of us, we've just kind of picked up and move on, because that's what you do. So you don't even realize the degree that it's affected you and how it's impacted your adult life here in the present. And admittedly, not everyone has been severely bullied, or not everyone has been, discriminated against growing up, and had really harsh experiences. It hasn't happened for everybody, but it's happened for a lot of people. And for some people, it's just that feeling of otherness. One of my very first memories was 4 years old. I was 4 years old, and I was at, day camp, kinder camp, whatever it is. And it was at the Y. And so I remember I was standing in the gymnasium, and I was standing up against the wall, and I was watching some other boys in my kinder care class, whatever you call it, playing with a basketball. And I was just standing there watching them, and the thought that occurred to me is, I'm not like you. And it's really my earliest memory. And so when you think about how that defined my personality, that my earliest memory is that sense of otherness, I'm not like you. And what that means to a 4-year-old, and then things that come after that, and so it's not necessarily everyone had to go through this horrific kind of growing up experience, although I wouldn't wish middle school on my worst enemy, by the way. And, and it's so weird because I thought growing up gay that I was the only person that had a horrific experience in middle school. And what like an enlightening moment when I found out that everybody hated middle school.
Yeah.
Everybody thought middle school sucked. So I was like, what? How could that be? But and so we don't, but then we pick up and we move on, and we don't really even think about it. And we get into adulthood, and we live our lives, and we do whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But we don't even really think about that there might have been things that have happened that impact the way we perceive the world. And for us, the biggest impact is the way that we connect with other people, connect with people on an intimate level. And so there's often the desire to do so, but then the fear of really continuing to go deeper. Because when you're in a long-term marriage, my husband and I will be together 27 years in June.
Wow.
And, you gotta be willing to go into the foxhole. Foxhole?
Yes.
Fox? Is that?
Yes.
Is my metaphor correct? I don't know. You got to be willing to go into the battle trenches.
Right. Yes.
And there are, Kurt, I swear to you, there are times that I've thought to myself, why is this person still with? Why are we still together?
Right.
I mean, we're in such a bad place, or it's usually because of something I've done. and I think that, and I'm like, well, gosh, how are we still together? How have we, and most people, it's rough. I mean, straight people don't even want to do it anymore.
Right.
They're like, I'm out of here.
I know we have our issues, but I'm going to tell you, I have a lot of straight friends, and I do not envy you guys at all anymore to what you have to go through. I mean, it's ridiculous, especially the younger generations. These people don't even talk to one. They don't know how to talk to one another. They don't have their phone where they can text each other, they're lost. They don't know what it is to date. They don't know how to become intimate with one another. And everything is, because everything is swipe right, or swipe left. It's that simple. It's like they can dismiss you like that. So to have the kind of commitment that you and your husband have, to where you've been together for 27 years, I think it's going to be harder and harder to find that as an example of because they're used to, like, if things don't work out, we're gone, and
Right.
it's that simple. And
It just gets easier
we're in
and
a
easier.
we're in a throwaway society
Yeah.
where it's like, your phone's broke, go get another one. Not, hey, let's fix this like we used to. Hell, we used to darn socks and mend our shoes. So, but those days are gone. Just go buy another pair, and that's how we look at our relationships, I think.
I think that that's really true. I don't know that I've ever put it quite that way in my head, but certainly there's a lot of valid. I think there's a lot of credibility with that. Is that it's too easy just to throw whatever away. And it makes me think of when you were saying that about darning socks. And at one point I had there was a older male couple that I was friendly with, and one of the guys, they were like in their 70s, and one of the guys, he would save dental floss.
What?
He would save dental floss.
Really?
Well, we think depression era people,
Right, yeah.
Nothing went to waste until it was absolutely not usable anymore.
Wow.
And so, and to think now, what, I don't know, I'm horrible at math, but what, 80 years later, I guess we're almost at 100 years later
almost.
from the Depression, aren't we?
because it was in
in the
20,
30s.
yeah, 29, 30, I think it started somewhere around there.
So we're almost 100
Right.
years, which is not that long in the course
Right.
of human history. And, and now everything is disposable. It's just like, what?
It is,
I'm
everything.
going to throw everything away.
Yeah.
Yeah, phones, TVs, people, whatever. I mean, I just move on to the next person.
I wanted to bring up a point that you had made just a couple minutes ago about our connection to people as we grew up, and our relationships with them. And I find that in the gay community that we have some issues. One of the biggest issues, and let me ask you this first before I get into that. What do you find is one of the biggest challenges with gay men and relationships?
Well, I think really along the lines that we were just talking about, we want connection so very badly, but we're scared of it, and we're scared of what that means. What we would have to do, how we would have to look, inward at ourselves. I mean, the thing about making a marriage work is that, number one, you really have to make a lot of decisions about what hills you want to die on,
Right.
and which ones you don't, and and so for men, there's always negotiating the power differential, because we're as I don't care as gay as we are, as femme as we may be, because I'm pretty femme. We're social culturalized to be in charge,
Right.
and so I may be very femme, but I'm a boss bitch. I want to be in charge, and so we have to negotiate the power differential, and and that's whoever talks about that. Okay, all right, honey. Well, tonight when we get home, we're going to negotiate our power differential. Right. I mean, nobody talks about that. You have to not. And when they say, "Well, marriage takes work," okay, well, what does that mean? Well, we have to learn about how we continue to communicate with each other, and how we communicate with each other in ways that we can be vulnerable. And yet be courageous enough to sit there and listen when the other person speaks. And it's not easy.
No.
It's really not easy. And so it's so much easier just to go to Grindr and find the next 10.
Right.
And so that's and then we're kind of being conditioned to do that. It just becomes easier. But it's. And I think the other problem is that we start to go unconscious, when the mad rabbit sex stops, after about the, I don't know, first 5 years or so.
You got that much?
Well, I will tell you that I still get mad rabbit sex, but but that's because we work on it.
Right.
You know, we work on it. And I'm a therapist. We've gone to marriage counseling, because I can't just assume because again, that's not negotiating the power differential.
Right.
Because if I'm going to therapize my own marriage, then that's a power differential, right?
Right.
And that was never going to work. So,
Right.
After the mad rabbit sex wears off, sometimes, you start to wonder, well, what is really now behind this relationship? And in some ways you just, sometimes we go unconscious, and just kind of live the life or whatever, and then get distracted by, other things. And then one day we wake up and go, yeah, I'm not really down with this anymore. When that's not really, in a lot of cases, you haven't gone too far to get it back. But I will say that most of the times you can't do it by yourself.
That's true.
You need help.
I think it's important that I'm going to say what you just said. Most cases, you're not too far to get it back. And I think most people don't realize that.
Totally.
It takes effort, but it takes effort on both parts, like you just said.
And you probably need outside help too.
Right.
I mean, if it's not a therapist or a marriage therapist, then, maybe a really good book on couples, healing each
Right.
other or creating, more intimacy. Because there's, my goodness, if you want to know the answer to any question, there's 4,000 books on any subject.
Yes.
On Amazon, and a lot of them are really good, that can really be helpful. But,
What I will say
we don't
is
read a
this.
lot of those books.
No, that's true. We don't. But what I will say is, one place you don't want to go, to your friends. Don't go to your friends.
Oh my God.
They're the worst because they're going to take your side and they're going to go, you're right, he's a dick. And they're only hearing your side of the story, number one, and they're always going to take your side because they're your friend and they're going to give you the worst advice possible. So, yes, go ahead.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that you said that because, lived experience right here. So the boyfriend that I had before my current relationship, we were together about 3.5 years. And I would even venture to guess from day one, all I did was bitch to my friends about him. Everything that he did that I didn't like, I would take it immediately to my friends. Bitch, 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 bitch. I had a friend, we were bitch friends. So he would bitch about his boyfriend and I would bitch about mine. We would be on the phone for hours.
Right.
Hours. 3 hours of wasted life bitching about our boyfriends when we should have been talking to our boyfriends.
Right, exactly. I met a guy like that one time when I was single, and all he did was, he wanted to get together, and I'm like, you're in a relationship. He goes, yes, but I don't. It's just, he started bitching about the guy, and I go, well, why don't you leave him? I go, because you're not doing him any favors. If he knew that you're sitting here bitching about him, I'm sure he would say, hey, hit the door. It's like, so people, when you bitch about the person you're with, you're not doing them any favors by staying there with them, and I'm sure that if they knew you were bitching, they would be in agreement to say, yeah, if this isn't working, then let's move on. But yeah, I notice a lot of people in a lot of relationships do that as well, and I know I'm gonna get flack for this, but I know I'm generalizing, but that's what women do. Women bitch to each other about their husbands and about their boyfriends. Men tend to not bitch about things for more than a couple seconds. And they just shut down because men don't normally talk about things unless they're looking for an answer. There's no answer to my wife is a bitch, because his buddy's going to say, well, divorce her, or something like that, or he'll say, I understand, because he's going through the same thing. But women will bitch about their husbands constantly. And again, I'm generalizing. I know not all women do. And I notice that gay men tend to do that as well. They'll bitch about their husbands or their boyfriends constantly. Instead of, like you said, you should be talking to them.
Well, and I think that in heterosexual relationships, there are, I'll use the word institutions, but there are patterns there's a better word. It's not in my head right now. That already exist, structures that already exist that kind of make all of that acceptable. Like it's okay to have a girls' night out, you know, and say, I'm generalizing too, sorry.
Right.
But, and then, let your hair down and talk about, all the things you'd like in your marriage to improve. Whereas for guys, there are things that they can do too, where you go but it's not the same. Because, I think that the culturalization in men and women is that, women try to they use each other's sounding boards to try to figure it out, where men just kind of disconnect,
Right.
So we're going to go to the game, or we're going to go and, hang out at the sports pub, or I don't know, whatever. I'm stereotyping too, sorry. But I mean, there's things that make that okay. And we're still, I think, and, on our end, we're still trying to figure it out, because, I mean, there are so many things that kind of, roadblocks that got in the way of our having kind of established institutions or structures. I mean, number one, I consider myself to be the first, well, actually I'm in the middle of, a shrunken generation that is now getting older because so many people in my generation didn't make it. They didn't live.
Right.
And so we're kind of trailblazing, what happens next. And but yeah, I mean, so I think that's part of, we don't know what to do about how to solve our problems, and so we kind of look around and just kind of see what makes sense. See what makes sense. But, I was going to say that when I started dating my current husband, I wasn't even close to be, growing the way I needed to grow to make this marriage 27 years. But one thing I did know, I'm going to stop talking about him to other people. And I tell you, just doing that made such a big difference.
Yes.
Because when I made that promise to myself, I only had two people now that I could talk to, either him or my therapist.
Right.
And that's it. And really, there shouldn't really be anybody else anyway.
I agree 100%.
And it made such a difference.
Hear that, people? Talk to your husband or to your therapist. And your husband's free. Therapist is not.
But well worth every penny.
Exactly. So one of the things that I believe is that in order to have a healthy relationship, it always starts with you. I've been saying this for years, and I teach people this, is like, you have got to learn to love yourself. Now, that's such a cliche, and people say it all the time. And so I teach people how to love themselves. But I go, and why it's so important to love yourself is because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to do the things that you do for people that you love. You're not going to be honest with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with others. If you go into a relationship not being honest, it's not going to last. It's not going to be a healthy relationship. Let's put it that way. So and one of the things I've found over the years is like, I'm not a therapist like you are, but I've been through a lot of relationships, good and bad. And, and like you said, much of it has been my doing, whatever problems we might have had. And I've learned from those things over the years. And I've taken note of the things that I needed to change and things that I started, noticing patterns. And I noticed that if you start lying, it leads to other bad habits like cheating or stealing and things like that. So because if you can justify lying, you can justify the other things as well. And if you start bringing those into a relationship, or you brought them in from the get-go, you've set yourself up to fail. So if you want to have that type of healthy relationship, to me, it starts with you.
Yeah, I mean, nothing could be more true. And when you're talking about learning to love yourself, I would have to say that it's a project that I work on every day.
Yes.
And I'm never done. And I for better or for worse, and I've said this before, and I've when I'm doing things like this or doing presentations, I'm like, I would never say this to a client. But I tend to hang on my perceived failures, and I tend to, which is really weird, being the therapist that I am, I tend to see how much further I have to go rather than celebrate my accomplishments. That's
Right.
really bad.
Yes.
I need to do that more often. Now that I just verbalize that, I need to celebrate my accomplishments more often.
Yes.
But like every day, I'm like, okay, and I'm doing the journaling, and I'm like, okay, this is my intention today, and this is how I'm going to love myself, and I feel like I'm never going to be done. And I think that it should be that way. I mean, you're never done,
right? Absolutely.
Because when you're done, then
it's time to die.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, going back to our conversation in the first few minutes, who wants to do that? That's hard.
Right.
I mean, it's so much easier to, watch Netflix or, I was going to say Golden Girls, but I'm not the only one who still watches the Golden Girls, right?
No, you're not. Trust me, you're not. I got a quick story to tell you. When I first came out, I was dating this guy. We went to his friend's house, who became my friends, of course, and we went there for Thanksgiving. Now, being who I am, I've always been an athlete, and I've always been into sports. I'm thinking we're going to sit down and watch a football game.
Oh.
There was apparently a Golden Girl marathon, and I was and I thought these guys were joking. Like, I was like, "Are you guys serious?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I go, "Really? Like, you're not going to watch football?" They're like, "Why would we watch that?" And I go, "Really?" And so it was definitely a shock, a culture shock, a new something new to me. And then later on, one of the guys came up to me and goes, "I really want to watch football with you." And I was like, "Yeah, right." It's like, but not that there's anything
Had you
wrong.
ever seen it before?
I had seen it before, but it wasn't a show like I watched, because I'm not one of those guys who relates to women. Like, I know a lot of gay guys, they relate to powerful women. Like, that's why they love Madonna or Cher or the women who've overcome so much. I could go back even further. If you're older.
I'm old.
Yeah, so
I'm a lot older than I look. I've had lots of
what's her
plastic
name?
surgery. Betty Davis, Joan Crawford.
Yeah,
I can keep going. Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor, but we'll do.
No one's had more tragedy than Liz Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. But also, what's her name from Wizard of Oz?
Oh, Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. There you go.
Of
That's
course.
yes. So I always found it kind of funny, because all my friends, gay friends, loved women singers, and they hated the boy bands, but loved Britney Spears and stuff, but hated New Kids on the Block, or hated
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
Right,
Why? They were all
exactly.
so cute.
Right, that's
Why would
what
we
I
hate
said.
them?
I go, why would you not like that? But they didn't care for queer as folk, but they loved Sex and the City. I go, really? I go,
Queer as Folk was amazing.
I thought so as well, and but again,
and to me, so
anything-
much better than Sex and the City. I never really got into it.
I never watched it, but I was like, one's about women, but because they related to it, that's what they loved, and that's what they wanted to watch, and there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just not something I was ever, I just never experienced myself. So I found that dynamic to be quite different from what I was used to with friends and hanging out with and what we would do and stuff. So.
Well, but that's another aspect of that. It can be problematic for our community, is that we get pigeonholed and stereotyped,
right?
And we're expected to like certain things or not like certain things. And I mean, I would probably pretty much classify myself as a gay stereotype. I like all the stuff and whatever,
right?
But,
and nothing wrong.
There's
with
nothing
that.
wrong with that. But I think that the problem for some people is that they feel like, oh, am I not? And I know this sounds silly to say it, but I mean, it might be kind of some semblance of that rolling around in some people's heads, is that, am I not doing gay right? Or is there something
right.
wrong with me because I don't like those things? And of course that's, not everyone's the same, and we don't all relate to culture the same way. And, and there's certain kind of staples of gay male culture, but it's not going to be everyone's appetite.
Right.
Just like in any given culture, not everyone who belongs to that culture likes all of the staples of it. It's just not going to happen, and that's okay. I mean, but see, we don't talk about that either. So tying this back into our conversation about relationships, if I don't connect to all of the staples, then in some ways it could happen that, I feel like it might be harder for me to get into a relationship. As a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember, I don't know what I was, I was reading something gay. Not to put too fine a point on it. I was reading something gay, but it was just, it might have been online or something, and I can't even remember the topic, but I remember very specifically there was a blog post from a guy who was talking about that, he really liked NASCAR. He had a disassembled engine sitting in his living room floor, and felt like that, a lot of guys didn't like him because he felt shunned because he didn't fit all the stereotypes, so that's a perfect example of, what we put each other through in the community to further kind of create that gap of connection.
Right. Well, I will tell you, for someone who came out much later in life, that was one of the things I think that kind of shocked me a little bit, because I think, and this is I think what happens with a lot of people who come out and they think that everything, like, oh, we're gay, we're a fraternity, or that we all get along and we're all supporting one another. And what I found was the exact opposite. I was like, for a community that hates being judged, we are the most judgmental motherfuckers I have ever met in my life. I was like, we judge each other about everything. Are you with someone too old? Are you with someone too young? Are you with someone too different color, too different culture? Too tall, too short? You have the couples who look like twins together. You have I just don't understand why we can't go, something may not be my cup of tea, but if it's your cup of tea, have at it. Why do we have to have people who say, if you're, you can consider yourself masculine? Well, which I always thought was funny, because some of these guys who go mask for mask only, I'm like, just because you go to the gym and work out 3 times a week doesn't make you masculine. Because you got a little muscle on you, that doesn't make you masculine. And for you to think that you have to put down guys who you consider feminine and you don't like them, well, maybe that person isn't your cup of tea, but keep your mouth shut and go move on and find what is your cup of tea. Don't try to disparage them because they don't live up to your idea of what a man should be or what a man should look like, because you don't look like the man what I consider to be a man. And we could all play that game. And so when in the gay community, what I noticed is this little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's this cattiness that many gays think is funny. It's like, oh, that's witty and he's catty, and so when he says something like that, we can laugh. And I don't know if they realize, this is why I refuse, and I know I'm going to get shit about this, but that's why I refuse to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, because I listen to these drag queens sniping at one another, and I go, I know you think this is funny, but to me, I think you're doing harm, because it isn't funny. It's funny at someone else's expense. And I just don't find that humorous, especially when we do it so often in the gay community, where we go, oh, where did that girl get that shirt? Oh, those are nice looking pants. Too bad he didn't find a size that fit him. That kind of stuff. Like, on the surface, yeah, that was a funny quip. But to say that, it's when you get into that mindset and you continually do it, I think you hurt us as a community. I might be overthinking it, so please tell me.
Well, what I will say is that if you want to transition into the toxic masculinity conversation that's inherent in our community, that's probably a whole other show. Yeah, well, we could talk so much about that.
And I do want to do that. So we will do a show on toxic masculinity, just like I want to do a show about the perceived prejudiceness with in the gay community against blacks. And I brought a point up to some black friends of mine, and it gave them a different perspective on it, because I go, yes, there is some prejudiceness going on, but I go, when I talk to most of my black friends, I ask them, how do you feel about the police? And none of them like them. And I go, why? because of the abuse and because of the oppression that they have felt under the thumb of the police over the decades, and their families have felt. That's why they don't like the police. And I said, now I want you to think about when you were in school. A lot of these guys were picked on by black guys. Now you can't say, well, all black guys are like that. Of course they're not. But all police aren't like that. But you still have an overall feeling about police as a whole. And these guys have an overall feeling about black men who bullied them when they were in school. You can't bully someone and then think that they're going to have this, that they're going to be okay and be able to forego the experiences that they had and just forget about it and go, oh, I'm okay now. Because like you said, we go through middle school, we go through high school with these, and then we never really think about them, and they kind of just dwell within inside of us. And if we don't become introspective and go, why do I feel this way, and challenge our beliefs, and we don't have the opportunity to change that belief. So I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just saying there needs to be an understanding both by the person who's feeling that way and realize I have to do something to change that because the perception I have, the belief I have, isn't right. Would you?
Well, I mean, in some cases that could possibly be true. I know that, the other issue is that white society as a whole is handed down implicit bias that it's so unconscious that we don't even realize that it exists unless we do the work.
Right.
My husband is black, by the way.
And so have you ever had a problem with that, like where you find a dynamic where you had certain built-in thoughts or ideas of being white and him being black, that this is the way it's supposed to be, sort of like when you're with a masculine guy and a feminine guy, it's you go, well, this is who I am, that's who he is, and this is what the roles are.
I wouldn't really couch it in those terms. I would say that that it's always been incumbent upon me to explore what implicit bias that I have, even before I even knew what that word was.
Right.
Because that wasn't a word that, most people had heard of before, maybe the past couple of years. But really examining, in what ways that I've been handed down attitudes and perceptions in really, really subtle ways that are so subtle that they hardly even get noticed.
Right.
And really taking a look at that, because that's where the real disconnect, lies. I mean, yes, there's overt racism, and yes, I believe in systemic racism in our country, and yes, I believe that there's a real issue between policing and the black community. But I have other issues with policing.
Right.
And the fact that we're getting into a completely
right.
different subject here,
Okay.
but I mean, just really quickly, the fact that you kind of set law enforcement up to go looking for trouble.
Right.
Because you don't set the fire department up to go looking for fires.
Right.
But that's what you do. That's what we do with the police. And I think, well, that's, that needs to kind of be retailored a little bit.
Yes.
So my dissertation actually was on law enforcement involvement with mentally ill people in crisis in the community. And I did a lot of ride-alongs, and I saw how they go looking for trouble. And whether they realized consciously that that's what they're doing.
Oh, no, they know that's what, because I used to be an MP in the Army, which we did exactly what civilian police officers do to the T, and we went looking because it was exciting. We didn't want the boring routine of going through the housing projects or something where it's quiet and nobody there's nothing going on. We wanted to be where the action was. And so, yes, it's absolutely.
So you went to the Marine bar, right?
Yeah, no. Well, we would hang out at the bar area because we knew there were going to be fights.
Where the Marines were hanging out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was in the Navy.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
I saved one of your boys one time. From a Marine, and I was like,
yes. Wherever there are Marines and sailors,
yes, and
alcohol, there's going to be a fight.
And I arrested the guy because I was off duty, but I still arrested him until the other MPs got there. And then I said, "Why did you hit that guy?" And he's like, I don't know. And I go, what, you just like to fight? And he goes, yes. And I go, well, you should probably find something that you're better at because you're not very good at this. And so, he was just looking for somebody who wasn't as big as him. And the unfortunately for the Navy guy, he didn't want to fight at all because his captain said, it doesn't matter who started. If you get in a fight, you're guilty. And I was like, that's not very fair. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
I know.
So
Sorry
yeah.
about
So
that.
anyway, I do want to touch on those, not just touch on, but have another show about those two topics alone, because I know that we can go into great detail with that just by themselves. So what I'd like to ask you is this. Let's talk about long distance relationships, especially as far as gay relationships go. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, again, I mean, I think that you have to be really psychologically committed to whatever parameters that you set up for that relationship. I mean, in my view, it's harder because we are a society of distracted people now, and it's harder to when you don't have your commitment right here.
Right.
It's just easy. It's harder to maintain that commitment. It's easier to be distracted, and I think it can be a challenge. Plus we don't really, we think in a lot of cases that I have kind of witnessed or had some sort of knowledge of too, is that a lot of times that we don't really know who that person is because we're not around them enough. We only know who we want them to be, and all relationships start out like that.
Right.
Anyway,
Exactly.
they all start out like that. But I think the problem could be with long distance relationships is that that happens for a more extended period of time. Because when I'm dating someone who's 5 minutes away, as the relationship progresses, one of two things are going to happen. We're either going to start spending more and more time together, or we're going to spend less time together, and we're going to drift apart or break up,
Right.
or whatever. But in long distance relationships, that a lot of times you can go for this very extended period of time where you're still, aromantically attached to the person that you want this person to be, to who you want this person to be. And I think therein might lie the issue a little bit. Because now, certainly if, when and if you ever, get together for long periods of time, if you go into it with eyes wide open, and you're willing to think about, I'm going to have a lot of my perceptions probably be rearranged. Although who does that?
Right.
But if you were to do that, then I would cheer you.
Right.
But I don't know that happens a lot. But maybe since you're listening to the show, and you would.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you for having been in both, I've been in a couple long distance relationships, and I'm actually in one right now. That's why I asked about it.
I should have known.
Well,
I should have known. I think they're great and they're amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Hear that, honey?
You should go for it.
One of the things I find when dealing with long distance relationships, and again, this comes from experience, and this is why I'm always very observant of how things work. And one of the things I notice is that you have to trust a person completely. And I know that can be difficult, especially long distance.
Mm-hmm.
This person is the first person who has ever committed completely. Like when we talk, he has the same thought process that I have, where he says, I'm not going anywhere. And he means that. No matter, like, you almost go, oh, that's a challenge. Let's see how big of a dick I can be to see if he really is going to stick around. And you find that real fast whether that person means what they say or not when you do that. And it's not fair. You probably shouldn't do it, but on a subconscious level, I think is how I did. I didn't consciously go, oh, I'm going to be a dick and see if he's going to stick around. But subconsciously, it's almost like you start finding yourself being a dick in cases that you normally wouldn't be. And what I found is that, one, you have to trust each other completely. And number two, you have to spend as much time as possible. Now, one of the things with him is that we're on the phone constantly. So I get to see him on as if he was in the other room. It's that we're on the phone that much, and so in fact, I would argue that we're probably together more than most people who live together because of what I do for a living and because of what he does. We're able to spend a lot of time on the phone together. So we actually have the kind of arguments that you and your husband would have, in those petty little things that you argue about. We have those same things, and so I think that helps if you're going to have a long distance relationship. That you like you said, you need to put that time in. It's not where if I only see him an hour a day and then I'm gonna look at him through rose colored glasses and go, oh, he's so wonderful. You have to take those glasses off. He has to take his glasses off and see each other for who you truly are.
Well, to be sure, and for every rule there's an exception.
Right.
Back in my day, I mean, the going presentiment was, well, you'll never meet a husband in a bar.
Right.
Well, that didn't prove out to be true. And we know that people meet on Grindr or whatnot that end up in long-term relationships that end up being very successful. It happens. I mean, again, we're talking about some of the problems that are inherent in our community, and none of that can be seen as an oversweeping generalization. It's just some of the common things that people grapple with. But, a lot of good stuff happens too.
Right, exactly. And that brings me to my next point. I truly believe that, our mindset is everything. And I mean everything in life, including relationships. And so I have a lot of older gentlemen because I always date younger, always. And it's just what I'm attracted to. I was attracted to younger when I was 8 years old. When you talked about being 4, I remember when I was 4. And I remember seeing people on TV, men on TV, and I'd go, he is really sharply dressed. I like the way he looks. Like, I didn't relate it to being gay or anything, but I always noticed that I was always attracted to men and the way they looked. Not sexually, just the way they looked. I remember when I was like 8 and 9, I like cartoons like Speed Racer, but I never liked Batman. I always liked Robin. I'm a kid and I know that Robin's a twink and I like what he looks like, and I've always been attracted to that physically. So where was I going with this? Now it's my turn.
You have a lot of older friends.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
So
you
a
always
lot,
like younger guys.
Right. So a lot of older guys think that the gay community is all youth oriented, and that's not true. While there may be a big portion of it that's youth oriented, I can tell. I tell them all the time. I go, look, there are so many young guys out there who love older guys, but if you keep looking in the wrong spot, it's like chasing a straight guy. You're never going to have a healthy relationship as long as you think you're in love with a straight guy, And that's what I find is that they look in all the wrong places. They have the mindset that everybody wants somebody young, and instead of looking at it from a different perspective, which is the real reality that there are plenty of young guys out there who like older guys, they instead start condemning the gay community and saying, oh, they're just superficial. And I always laugh because I go, you say they're superficial because they can get what they want. And I assure you, if you could get what you want, it would be just as superficial. You would have the guy whatever your type is, which is for a lot of them, the 6-pack abs and, and the chiseled chest and all that. And so to me, I find that to be quite funny that they want to chastise the entire community because they like what they like.
Well, yeah, and then we go into, it goes back to that, there are standards that we all think we have to adhere to, and we have to look a certain way, we have to act a certain way.
Right.
And
they buy into that. Like,
yeah, I mean, a lot of us really struggle with that. Well, you can see, go to any gym.
See, that's the other thing too, is like, I've always had guys tell me, because I've always been a power lifter, I've always been more concerned with strength than what my body looks like. I'm a big guy, but I don't care about 6-packs, and I've had guys go, if you got a 6-pack, you would look great. I go, I don't care about the 6-pack, and I don't care because there are guys who I like who don't care about the 6-pack, and so I want someone to like me for me. I don't want them to like me until, and because I have a six pack, and then one day when I don't have the six pack, they're like, oh, I'm out of here, So I think you have to be confident enough in yourself and not buy into that stereotype or into the stereotypes of going, oh, I have to be, a certain standard. I think you just have to be confident in yourself, because to me, the number one aphrodisiac is confidence. People care more about a confident person than what they look like. And would you agree? Or, I mean, again, you're the therapist. You tell me, is that right or wrong?
I think that confidence goes a very long way. I think it creates a meta energy around us that can literally change our environment through the energy that it creates. And like anything else, some people seem to have it more naturally than others. But it is interesting that we don't kind of put that up on a pedestal.
Right.
Because imagine if we as a society put confidence up on a pedestal, and the expectation is that we all had to work on being confident. Imagine what an amazing society we'd be, that you got to do the work to become confident,
Right.
I mean, wow.
Well, I think that stems from is that you said some people seem to have it more than others naturally. And I think it's because there are people out there who look at themselves, and they do love themselves. They respect themselves and go, I am who I am. And, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry, then move on. You don't have to like it. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not out there to please every guy. I don't care if every guy is attracted to me. The guys who are attracted to me that I'm attracted to, that's all that matters. I don't need the whole world's, validation to be confident in who I am or to love myself. And I think if we start it with ourselves, again, it always comes back to ourselves.
It always comes back.
Yeah. That if we were to focus that attention and energy on ourselves, we would gain that confidence. But it's so much easier to, and we're all guilty of this, at least I believe we are, is that it's so much easier that if you come to me and go, Kurt, I have this problem, and I go, okay, tell me all about it. And I can solve your problems, but I'm not going to look at mine, because it's much harder for me to solve my own problems, because then I have to look at the ugliness that's inside me, and I have to face that. And I think a lot of people don't want to see the ugliness inside them, but you're never going to be able to change and become the person you want to be if you're not willing to look at yourself honestly and look at the good along with the bad.
No, I mean, it's absolutely true. And you're right. It always comes back to that. And there's so many conversations about it, but we don't hear because there's so much distraction. I've recently started following, I don't know what do we call folks like, Simon Sinek and Daniel Pink, thought leaders. I don't know.
Well, they're motivational speakers. Yeah. And, yeah.
So I recently kind of came across this guy. His name is Jim Quick, and he's a meta thinker. He does a lot of thinking about thinking and thinking about learning and learning about how to learn. And it's kind of cool. And, he has, some of the things, and I just love it when people say profound things. I'm like, I want to say profound things, but until then, I'll just copy other people's profound things. He says we are now trained as a society to be distracted. We're because of everything that we're media trains us to be distracted.
Exactly.
Because most of us have 4 pages of apps on our phones that we, I'm done looking at that. Let me go to this other one, or whatever. That's why, I don't have an Instagram account, and I do have a Facebook account, but I don't have Facebook on my phone.
Oh, that's good.
Because I'm trying to do what I can to limit my being a distracted human. And boy, I tell you, it's a trap.
It really is.
And we're all caught up in it. And so, and even though there, and so by the same mechanisms like YouTube that I can watch, Simon Sinek and Jim Quick on YouTube is the same YouTube, that I can watch, what you packing from last night's RuPaul's Drag Race,
Right.
or or Crazy Cats, or whatever, or Indian gay romances, which is a really big thing now on YouTube that I got kind of I got
Really?
kind of pulled into. But sometimes it's the same mechanism, and so you have to you have to be able to be smart about,
Right.
or conscious, I think is a better word, conscious about what you're digesting and how.
That's key. You just hit on what you're digesting, because I don't think most people realize the importance. We talk about the physical body, and like, you are what you eat. Well, the same thing happens with us mentally. What we feed our mind. If I spend an hour, and I've been guilty of this, if I spend an hour looking at Karen memes,
Oh my God.
I get some sort of satisfaction from that.
Yes.
But I know that it's not.
But
it's
what's
it's
the point?
right. Exactly. It's like, what kind of mindset does that put me in? Simon Sinek, Dennis Kimbrough, Tony Robbins. Those things are things that will help you become a better person. Watching Karen memes is not that. So if you're feeding yourself, that's why I seriously hate Facebook. If it wasn't for my podcast, where I put my podcast stuff up there, I promise you I would not have a Facebook, simply because it is so toxic. It's become this cesspool of people who, if I see people on there putting up contradicting, posts, because they just want to start shit with people. And I go, what are you getting out of this? Because are you so starved for attention that you just want people to react, so that you feel like you matter, like you're validated, like you're alive? And I find that it's a lot with people, is that they want attention so bad they'll do anything to get it. And as we know, for some people, it doesn't matter whether it's good attention or bad attention. It's attention, so it's all good to them. And it creates this environment of hatred, that I can't spend more than 30 seconds on there, and I go, I'm done with this, and I look at it like maybe once or twice a day, and it's always the same thing. I'm always hoping, oh look, I'll find a cute little cat video or something, but it's hardly the case. It's usually political or something else.
So, but again, it's that dream of the dopamine rush.
Right.
It's the hope that you're going to get something, really cool and valuable. I've been disconnected from Facebook for about 5 years. Like I said, I have a Facebook account, but I never post. And I very rarely go on. And people are like, well, why do you keep your account? Well, because it's the only way you get invited to parties.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
That's the only reason why I keep a Facebook account. Of course, the last year that didn't do me any good.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe sometime this summer I'll get invited to a pool party.
Right.
But that's the only reason why I keep the account, because if people are going to have a party, then they're going to go down and look through their friends list. Oh, I want to invite that person. I want to invite that person. And if I'm not on there, then I ain't going to get invited.
Hear that, Jeff? Pool party.
So, but that's really the only reason. And it's so funny. My husband has no internet footprint at all. He has no accounts. I joke that he will be the leader of the resistance when we all become part of the Matrix, because he has no internet footprint.
That's great. And I tell people all the time, you want your life to get better immediately, get the hell off Facebook. I promise you, your life will get better like that. And like you said, just keep it so when you get invited to parties, or you kind of know what's going on with family or friends, that post something once in a while, and just get rid of the rest of the nonsense, because it is...
It really, you don't know. This is why becoming conscious is so important, and to tie it back to relationships, because you don't know how many, how much negativity there is just routinely created in the universe around us, and that we have to come up with a way to shed it. And the only way that we can be able to shed it and not absorb it is to be consciously disconnected from it.
Right.
But that again comes back to you. It takes work. It's hard.
Right.
But what I think the bigger challenge is that it's harder to convince people of the ultimate payoff. your relationships are going to be more rewarding. They're not going to be easier necessarily. I wouldn't say that my marriage is easy, but gosh, I wouldn't want to be with anybody else.
Right.
And because of the work that we have done, because we haven't always been in good places, but but the last several years we have been, and for me to actually be in a relationship where when I get upset or when it's not going the way that I want, and that I don't immediately resort to, well, I wish I was having sex with somebody else. For me to not have that mindset, that's an accomplishment I'm proud of.
Right.
Because that's not a person that I've been all my life.
Right. Exactly.
Because
But you got to that point, and I think that's what's important. Is people have to understand. I'm the same way. I wasn't always that person, but I am that person today. But it took work. It didn't just you didn't just wave a magic wand and go, "This is who I am now." It doesn't. And let me say one other thing while we're on this topic. When you're working to better yourself, and bettering yourself, I mean what you think you need to do. I tell people you need to look in the mirror and take stock of yourself. And not just of the bad things, but don't be afraid to look at the bad things and take a hard look at those things, but also the good things, and know that these are the things that you love about yourself. These are the things you don't love. So let's start working on getting rid of those things on this side. There's some things that I still have on this side, and I go, I'm okay with it. I probably shouldn't be, but right now I'm okay with it. When I'm no longer okay with it, I'll work on getting rid of those things. But one of the things I realized is that when you're working on that side, when you're wanting to get rid of those things, almost always what happens is that you'll be working on bettering yourself and not doing those things, and to the point where, like you said, now I'm there. I don't think of other people wanting to have sex with other people. It's not going to happen right away. And you'll have someone come up to you and go, "See, you haven't changed. You haven't changed at all." And you're like, "Yes, I have. I mean, no, I'm not completely changed, but do you not see the progress?" And often they don't, or they don't want to see the progress. You've got
people see what they want to see.
Right, exactly. So you've got to know that you are making progress, and don't listen to those who tell you that you're not. And just know that, like you said, this is a process.
Right. I mean, because like Madonna said, you only see what your eyes want to see.
Yes.
And I could absolutely not complete a whole radio show without quoting Madonna.
Right. Well,
I was also thinking about, where you were talking about knowing all the things inside of you. And so, of course, I'm listening to you, but what's also going in my mind is, Madam X is a double agent. Madam X is an Uber driver. Madam X,
right.
Because these are all the things that were inside of us. You can be a hero and a whore.
Right.
And it's all inside of us. And we have to be able to, acknowledge it, otherwise it can control us.
Right. And since you brought Madonna up, I'm going to use this as an example. If anyone has shown us, gay people, or at least those who, there are young kids out there who don't even know who the hell Madonna is. I'm like, what's wrong with you people?
I don't speak to them. I don't know them people. I don't know her.
But if you think it is difficult to change who you are, Madonna's a prime example of showing some people how to reinvent themselves. She has reinvented herself so many times, and to show that, look, it might take work, but you can be who you want to be. And I think that she's a shining example. Now, you may say that's just on the surface, that she's still the core person, but I don't believe that. I believe that she's changed as well as to who she is and how she sees things. They're completely different than they were, let's say, 30, 40 years ago. But the thing is like, if you haven't changed, what a sad life. If you think and feel the same way at 50 as you did at 20, what happened? If you had no growth in 30 years, that's just sad. Right.
It makes me think of, what people write in your yearbook. You're so great. Yeah. Stay the same. Never change.
Exactly.
And just like you're saying, if you're 50 and you haven't changed since 17, nobody is going to want to talk to you.
No, except other people who stayed 17.
Stay the same. Don't ever change.
Those guys, listen.
It's not a life goal.
No, but you know what? I've seen those guys. Those are the guys who never leave the town. They had some sort of popularity in high school. They never left. And they're the guys who are 50, 60 years old, sitting down at the same bar that they started frequenting when they were 20, and they've gone nowhere, and done nothing with their lives. And I don't know how someone can go through life like that without feeling regret throughout their entire life, going, I wasted this entire life and did nothing with it, this gift that I was given.
I think that we, more than we realize, are programmed to live that life by the society
Yes.
around us. We are programmed to live that life. And, when you, okay, we're getting into a different show topic here, but I mean...
I tend to do that. Listen, all my shows tend to do that, and that's fine. We'll always bring it back around. But, yeah, if we go off topic, don't worry about it.
It's like, even in Christianity in its pure form, that's not about an unexamined life, although that seems to be what it's become, for so many of the denominations. But Christianity in its pure form is about examination and, thinking. And, there's a lot of profound stuff that's
Right.
written, in the Bible, but that's not really what you see a lot of times that are, that's coming down from the pulpit. It's kind of like, just do what you're told to do. And,
Right.
And that's not really the way it's supposed to be.
No, it's not. And with that programming, it comes back to also what you talked about earlier, distraction. If you're distracted, you don't think about changing that program because you're not focused on you. You're too distracted with all the garbage over here to focus on you and what you need to do with your life. It's much easier to insert yourself into other people's lives so you can judge them. And I think there's some sort of pleasure switch that's thrown when we look at other people and they're not doing well. I think that's why you had shows like Honey Boo Boo and all those, that people looked at those and go, oh, I can make fun of these people because they're less than me. So as bad as my life might be, it's not as bad as that life,
Right.
or I'm not as bad as that person is. And it's just, it's just a distraction from us to do better for ourselves. And you are very fortunate, because I know too many people who are looking for the perfect relationship, and I tell them, you're not ready. If Mr. Perfect walked in through your door today, you would lose him because you're not where you need to be with the right person that you're supposed to be with. You happen to grow, and were able to grow through that relationship, where a lot of people, they're not as introspective as you, so they're not going to grow, and so that relationship ends.
Yeah, and for some reason, I don't really know why he didn't leave.
Well, he obviously saw something great in you, so.
Because I wasn't done,
but like
I
you
wasn't
said,
even beginning.
Right, yeah.
I look back in 1995 at the person I was, and about my ability to really work on myself in a relationship. No, that didn't exist.
I'll tell you what, 1995, the person I am today wouldn't have liked the guy I was back then. I would have gone, that guy is a douche. And I was a prick. I was like, I can't believe that was me, Yet, had I not been introspective, had I not looked at myself, honestly, I would have ended up remaining that person. And I am so glad. And not to say I'm great now, because like you said, we're a work in progress. And I always want to get better, because I still mess up a lot, but it's a lot less than what it used to be. And I see things, I'm more compassionate than I used to be. And I'm glad that I have this point of view that I didn't have at one time. One time I was very judgmental and about people, and going, and simply dismissing people's feelings and things because I thought I had all the answers. And just like when you're a teenager and you think you know everything, and then as you get older, you go, oh, I didn't know shit. So you kind of do that. As long as you remain introspective and continue to challenge yourself through your life, you find out the more you know, the less you understand, So as Don Henley would say from the Eagles, the greatest singer in rock music. So
thought that was Pat Benatar. Or Stevie Nicks.
But see, you're going to the females, I'm going to the males. But I will say,
Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury is amazing. Amazing voice. Yeah. I think that with Don Henley, it's not just his voice, it's the lyrics and the instrumentals. Everything that he was able to, the music he was able to put together was just absolutely amazing. And it still is, and he still has one of the greatest voices out there. And he's got to be 70 something now. And amazing. Anyway, enough about Don Henley. Let's go on to this. Now, how many times have you seen people who could date somebody who's really a quality person, but because that person didn't present a challenge, they just lost interest? It seems to me, I've seen many times over and over again where and women do this too. They always, and I say women, when they're starting out, they always want the bad boy, the challenge, the guy that they want to change, that they're going to, he's so bad, I can't get him to do what I want, to do. And I find that very much in the gay community, where there are a lot of men that if you don't present a challenge, it's as if they don't have to work for it, you're not worth it. And I always found that to be, that if you have someone who cares about you and can freely say, I really like you, and you go, I lost interest. But if the guy never tells you, and then all of a sudden you're trying to get him to like you, and you keep trying and trying because there's that challenge. And I find that to be quite prevalent. Again, this is anecdotal, of course, because these are from my experiences, but I've noticed that quite often.
Well, I mean, it goes back again to, the self-work, that I wouldn't want to be a member of any club that would want me to join,
Right.
kind of thing. So, so that's really what that's about. I don't like myself enough. So if someone likes me, especially if they're like overtly demonstrative in their like of me, then they must not be like, they don't have their head on straight or something, whatever.
Right.
There's insert insult, so
that's where it stems from. It's just a dislike for themselves.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I had absolutely no understanding why guys did that, and it's until you just said it, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so again, it goes back to, where we shoot ourselves in the foot because we're wrestling with our relationship with ourselves. What I really want is for someone to like me, but if someone likes me, well, I don't want that.
Right.
Because there must be something wrong with that, because I'm unlikable. So that's kind of how that all comes together.
That's the sense when I was in this one relationship, is like, I said that it wasn't enough. My validation wasn't enough, and so I kind of always felt like he didn't give it the respect that it was due, because he must not have held my opinion in high esteem, because it really didn't matter to him. He needed to hear it from everyone else, and so it's like you said, maybe he probably didn't like himself, so if I liked him, there must be something wrong with me. And that makes, like I said, complete sense. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't me. There wasn't nothing wrong with me. It was all you. I'm joking. No. Wow. That's enlightening. That there was worth it. I mean, honestly, because I know a lot of men struggle with that and probably don't know why they struggle with it. And so I've had clients, because as everyone knows, I'm a personal trainer. And like bartenders, we tend to be more than personal trainers for a lot of our clients. And so, I remember talking to clients who said, this guy, he's really good looking. He's so super nice and everything. And he really likes me, but I don't feel anything. And I go, yeah, you know why you don't feel anything? It's because he's not being a challenge, but you'll like some dick who won't give you the time of day, and then you're like, I'm in love with him. Like, you're not in love with him. You don't even know him, but because he presents that challenge to you. And now that you said it, because we don't even like ourselves, and that's the reason why we don't give those people the just...
Right. And if I can snag a guy who's disinterested in me, then that means that I've achieved a level of likability that I didn't have before.
Wow.
But it's fake.
Right. Yeah, because it's, and I always found this to be humorous, especially with women who always like the bad boys. It's like, you know, even if you snag the bad boy, now you want to change the bad boy. And if you don't change the bad boy, you're always crying to your friend about how, oh, I love him so much, but he just doesn't, you know, he doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. But if you do change the bad boy, now you're no longer interested in him. So it's based off of such craziness that I go, do you not see that this is doomed either way? Because because either he's never going to love you the way you want him to, or if he does, then you're going to lose interest in him. Because if you change him, then that means you've broken him, and he's no longer this wild bad boy that you're attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
Is that craziness?
Well, it is an error in perception and an error in logic. Because what you think that you're doing and trying to accomplish isn't anything remotely related to what's actually going on.
That's correct. And I think if people can see that before they get into this, like, you know, again, I'm sure we've all been through most of these types of relationships, you know, from when we were younger, you know, maybe even still some today, that if you can understand this, like what you just said, you know, that the reason why you have a challenge with liking people who like you is because you don't like yourself. And now you have the knowledge to go, okay, I need to start working on myself. So, you know, what you just said is so valuable to, you know, that I think it could help a lot of people. And I hope that the people who are listening, you know, listen carefully to what you said and take heed to it. One of the things I like to do on my show is, like, I always want to present the problems, but I don't believe we should stay focused on the problems. I believe we should focus our attention on the answers. So with the issues that we just talked about, what are some of the solutions? I know we kind of, you know, talked about them a little bit, but what would you say would be 3 of the major solutions that we can work on to have better relationships?
So first off is stop focusing on getting other people to love you and focus on learning how to love yourself, and make it a lifelong commitment. Don't expect you're going to be done. You know,
right.
It's not a college course. You know, you're not going to be done in a semester. So make it a lifestyle, you know, something that you adopt for your life, and that it's open to growing and changing and evolving. So I think that's the first thing, is focusing on your relationship with yourself. When you focus on the relationship with yourself, your relationships with other people will follow.
Right. Absolutely.
And I would say the second thing, because, gosh, that's the most important. Is there a 2 and a 3?
Well, I think
don't be a dick.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about shaming and about, you know, biting humor and you know, and what you know, and we have to know the difference between, you know, what looks, you know, funny and entertaining on TV versus what it is in real life. So, you know, practice, you know, being nice. You know, don't and not just being nice to other people. Be nice to yourself. You know, practice kindness in your head. You know, the thoughts that you have in your head, but also take that negative energy away from other people. You know, don't make fun of what other people wear or what they look like, or, you know, whatever, or how they act, or, you know, I don't know if they.
I'm going to tell you, if
they fall, you know, if they're, you know, walking up, you know, the steps at JR's in Washington D.C. and they fall up the steps with a full drink, you know, don't laugh at them. Which is what happened to me.
You're going to take a lot of people's complete humor away. It's like that's their entire joke.
You know what? But there's, you know what? Look, I'm funny.
Right.
I'm really funny, but I'm not funny at other people's expense.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, if you know that if this person heard what you said would hurt them, then it's not funny. At least not to me. Now we might justify making fun of people and being okay with hurting certain people because we think they're dicks and they deserve it. I don't know where you draw the line there, like, whether that's okay or not. But I know that if someone is innocent and you're just making fun of them just to be mean and you think that's funny, it's to me it never has been. And when you said, the number one thing is to
work on the relationship with yourself.
With yourself, right? That you have to be honest and you have to understand you're going to have to change your mindset. Those are two things that are absolutely paramount in working on yourself.
And so then I would say number 3 would be, even though it doesn't necessarily seem like it has anything to do with building a better love relationship, but I think you might be surprised. Well, you wouldn't be surprised, but you might be surprised. Learn how to stop distracting yourself.
Yes.
With stuff that doesn't matter in the media. Yeah, you can take breaks to watch Karen memes or crazy cat videos or whatever, but don't let it rule your day.
Right.
Like Jim Quick says that, for the first hour of the day, don't pick up your phone. And so I used to, one of the things that, and I didn't realize, so especially during COVID year 1, is that I didn't realize how, until I got conscious of it, the first thing I would do every morning, even before I go out on my run, is I would pick up my phone and I would and I would go through my Google News feed. It's all bad news.
It is. And deliberately.
So what am I doing to my head?
Right.
The first thing I get up in the morning and, I don't go on Facebook and hear people watch people argue, but I go through the news feed thinking, oh, that's better than being on social media. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
I quit watching the news a long time ago. I obviously I can still keep up with what's going on just by little bits and pieces that, regardless of whether I see it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, I'm there for a few moments. But I find that most of it it doesn't matter to me to the point where it changes anything in my life. It doesn't matter.
It's all just
distraction.
It's all just distraction and spam. So it clears up your mind. It can clear up your mind to be more conscious and to focus on the things that matter, which would hopefully be your relationship. So those are my 3 things.
Those are brilliant. I mean, honestly,
as I joke to my friends all the time, you think they're just giving PhDs away,
right? Well, that depends on whether you can afford to buy one or not.
Ooh, now we get into current events. Well,
exactly.
Not really that current.
Not that current,
but within the last year or so, right?
Right, exactly. So, okay. Well, I really appreciate you being here and having someone of your level of expertise, that you've dealt in relationships, for the biggest part of your career, and that you've been doing this for over 20 years. It's great to hear somebody who I can say he is an expert. Like, I can have my opinions, but I don't have a PhD. I'm not an expert. It's just my opinion. But I'm glad that I have someone like you on here who can validate those positions, and so that people can go, he knows what he's talking about. Let's follow that and let's see what happens. And that's all they need to do, is just listen to what you said, start following those things, and watch their life change. And I know that will happen, and they just need to believe it. So I'm glad that you came on the show. I love having you on here, and I really do want to have you back and talk about those other topics. And I can think of at least another dozen topics that we can talk about. That I think is prevalent especially to the gay community and to people who are looking for relationships. We didn't even talk about the fact that you have a daughter, and that's a whole nother thing. Gay couples and children, and even gay people who don't care about gay marriage because they don't want to get married, so they don't care if other gay people get married. Those people who are very self-centered and only think of themselves and not care about the community as a whole, So there's so many things we can talk about that I could have you on here for the next 5 years and not run out of topics easily.
Well, I will say thank you so much for having me. There is few things in life that I enjoy more than someone allowing me to pontificate in front of a microphone. I love it.
Yes.
I love talking about me and my ideas.
That's the hardest thing about doing this show is because I found that I love to pontificate as well, but I don't really get to do it that much because I'm the host and I have to ask you to pontificate. And I was like, I want someone to ask me to pontificate.
Well, maybe one show we'll have to do a switcheroo. Is that what you call it?
Yeah,
Switcheroo?
yeah. You
like
can,
I'll interview you.
Yeah, and then I can tell you my thoughts, and you can go back and go, Kurt, this is what you got wrong.
Well, I'll interview you about fitness. Boring.
That's why when I started this show,
I love talking about muscle groups because
honest to goodness, the most viewed shows I have and listened to shows I have are when I do those shows. Like I had Stan Efferding, the world's strongest bodybuilder, on my show. And he's great. He's just a walking encyclopedia when it comes to health and nutrition and workouts and things of that nature. But I specifically said I do not want to be pigeonholed into any one category. I love talking about everything and I love learning about everything. So I refuse to get, even though that's where I know if I really want to grow my podcast fast, that would be the route I'd take. But I don't care about taking time and letting it grow organically and being able to talk about the things that I enjoy talking. And that's why I love having you on here. That's why I love having Stan on here. I mean, I've had musicians, comedians, and I want to be able to always do that and talk about, I want to be able to talk about funny stuff, and I want to talk about the controversial stuff as well, and not say, oh, well, this is a funny show, so we can't talk about anything controversial, or this is a controversial show, you can't talk about anything funny. So having you in the mix and talking about, like, I don't always want it to be about straight stuff. I don't always want it to be about gay stuff. It's so I know that my show is that the people who follow my show are going to have to be open-minded, and they're not going to want to listen to all the episodes. I'm sure that the straight guys who follow my show, they'll go, oh yeah, I'll skip this episode because it doesn't pertain to them, and that's fine. You don't have to listen to it all. And I'm sure that the gay people I have, that there's some shows on there that I have that they're like, that's not of an interest to me. So that's okay. I think. All right. So, okay. All right. Well, that will be our show for today. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. As always, you really are why I do this. And besides, I like to hear myself talk, and David, I'd like to hear him talk too. But, it's so that we can have an open mind and look at things from different perspectives and grow as people. And I believe that will benefit us as a society. So thank you for joining us. Dr. David, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And I look forward to having you in the near future. So, all right, folks, that's our show. Until next time, take care of yourself, be safe, and you know the drill. Wear your mask.
The Powers Project.